Welcome back, guys, to the Soul Ecosystem Podcast. I am your host, Anna Rising, and on this podcast, we discuss soul contracts and past lives, reincarnation, Akashic records, and all things spirituality. Today's episode, we are going to be doing a deep dive into 3 celeb soul contracts. I have been following the Justin Baldoni Blake Lively conflict since it began, and it is all over my Instagram feed because the algorithm is going to do what the algorithm is going to do, and it's going to show you what you're watching. And I have been seeing all of this stuff on it for the longest time, and it is time for me to give you guys my take on it, my take based on their soul contracts, and I'm going to try to make it as unbiased as possible being the key word, because from the start, this did not sit well with me. I went to go see the movie It Ends With Us because it was advertised as a chick flick, as a rom-com. To be fair, I should have known that it wasn't like necessarily a comedy, but it was like more dramatic. But it was date night. I went to go see this with my now husband, and I left the movie theater sobbing. Never have I ever had a movie in a movie theater have that kind of effect on me. And I was totally not prepared. I was super triggered, and I was walking out and I'm like, I wish they gave a trigger warning for this because I did not expect this, because I did not read the book. So the fact that Blake Lively was advertising this as grab your florals and your girlfriends and go check this out disturbs me deeply. I don't care if she was contractually obligated to do this. I feel like this is something that you should have argued not to do, especially considering that Justin Baldoni was not advertising it as this. He was not advertising it as something romantic, something fun and quirky, albeit I did see him talking about domestic violence only after I actually saw the movie. So something doesn't sit right here. The whole entire thing with how this movie was advertised, it felt like I was blindsided going into it, and I wonder if a lot of people felt the same. And now all of this conflict coming up between them, where Blake Lively, I believe she filed a complaint, not an actual lawsuit. Her and Ryan Reynolds filed a complaint, and then Justin Baldoni sued the New York Times for them airing out this complaint that was mysteriously leaked. So there's a lot of things being stirred up here, and I was very, very skeptical. So I'm going to give you guys a look into their soul contracts, a look into the contracts, the agreements that they made coming into this incarnation, in order to get some insight into what is happening. And I've also talked on my Instagram at the Soul Ecosystem before about what the numerology for their year is according to their soul contract for the year that this was coming out. And I'm going to touch on that as well, because I feel like it kind of gives you an idea of what is going on underneath all of the media articles and everything that's being fed to us through the media. So a friend of mine actually sent Candace Owens' profile over to me and told me that she did a whole highlight on having a source that's saying that the actual villain here is Ryan Reynolds. So in addition to Justin Baldoni's and Blake Lively's chart, I'm also going to be looking into Ryan Reynolds. I would also recommend that you guys watch that highlight. I know Candace Owens is not everybody's cup of tea. She isn't my cup of tea, but I think that there is some truths there. I'm going to share what I personally think about everything that's happening here towards the end, but the general consensus I am coming to here is that there's no fault party here. There's definitely something going on, because where there's smoke, there's fire. But there's also the chance, and you guys are going to find out who, that somebody is kind of blowing this out of proportion because of their own self-issues. Without further ado, I want to look into Justin Baldoni's chart first, then Ryan Reynolds, then Blake Lively's. So it is no secret that Justin Baldoni is an excellent public speaker. He is very persuasive. It's very easy to get on his side. It's very easy to be like, okay, this person is a natural born leader. He has in his mainframe of his soul contract, he has the numbers 6 and 1. 1 is the number of leadership. This is a natural talent and proclivity to lead, to be in a position of authority. Unfortunately, the negative side to that is that this person can be a bit authoritarian and not like it when other people take control, not like it when other people are dismissing their ideas, and not be very sensitive to other people's ideas and take it personally when they don't align with theirs. I'd like to remind you guys that every person makes a conscious choice whether to operate from a positive or a negative. I feel like all throughout our incarnations, all throughout our lives, we are bouncing from one to the other, depending on our mental health, depending on our surroundings, our environment. So when a person isn't doing so well, obviously they're going to be leaning towards operating from the negative. And oftentimes it's because we're operating from our negatives that our lives are falling apart. And you are going to see that happening in Justin Baldoni's chart right off the bat. So the second main number in his chart is the number 6. 6 is all about communication. It's all about community, family, friendships. This is a person that likes to socialize, that is very good at socializing, likes to have a multitude of people around them, and also likes luxury. They like the finer things in life. They like to be comfortable. They like aesthetics. So right off the bat, Justin Baldoni's chart says that he has a very challenging destiny. It says that he is going to be filled with spiritual insights throughout his life. There are going to be moments where he is challenged and he has to rise to the occasion and learn something out of it, become a better person, become the bigger person. And he is going to be prone to financial setbacks and declines in the material world. So I'm wondering if this is pertaining to this conflict, although I don't think it is, because I think that in the end, I think he's going to win that lawsuit that he filed on New York Times. So I think there's going to be a good chunk of change coming in for him there. But we are going to see that whenever Justin is operating in a negative place, his life starts to fall apart. He starts attracting conflicts into his life that he has to fight, and that often starts declining into him losing job opportunities, him losing money, and material wealth. His chart says that he's going to find happiness, true happiness, in the second half of his life when he kind of reconciles with his inner world, with his outer world, and with the people surrounding him, and kind of lets things be. But there's this acceptance that has to happen where, okay, that happened, this is happening, and I'm okay with whatever happens next. His chart also says that he has a tendency to hyperfixate on his finances, hyperfixate on his financial situation. But the more he hyperfixates on it, the more attention he draws to it, the more things start to go awry, because it's like he's paying attention to how much money is going in and out, and he's like very focused on making sure that there's more coming in than going out, and he starts kind of manifesting this very sticky energy, this dense energy, where he's so focused on feeling like he's going to be in a state of lack that he is manifesting that state of lack. It's very important for him not to get into a place of despair or like freaking out or like getting really in his head and getting really anxious, because that's when it's a slippery slope, and he might be like drawn to business ventures that aren't necessarily smart to invest in. Those are my cats. He might be investing in things that aren't worth his time, but he's like afraid that if he doesn't, he's going to miss out, and then he takes an unnecessary risk. And that actually shows up in his subconscious programs later. He has the excitement risks adrenaline program where he might be a little bit impulsive with his choices. Sometimes he might be like, okay, like I'm going to go all in on this. Like I'm going to put all of my savings into this one stock and then have it not pan out. He might think that he has like good insight into it like blowing up in the future, and then it just collapses and he loses everything. So there's this propensity to take risks that are not worth it, that are not worth the payout compared to the gigantic risk that it is. Throughout all of his chart, over and over again, sorry, I have a highlighter here because I've been highlighting the parts that I really want to stress to you guys, because I could make an entire episode. I could speak for hours on Justin Baldoni's chart alone because there's so much information there. And I'm trying to fit in 3 contracts into one episode. So I'm going to give you guys the juicy details. And throughout his whole entire chart, it says that he's persuasive. He's a great speaker. Now, with that talent comes great responsibility, because you know that you are very good at convincing people your side of the story. You know that you're very good at telling stories, and people might start to abuse that. And there is this sense that he might be downplaying what he's been doing. He might be downplaying his role in this conflict, although he hasn't specifically addressed it. One of the things I really, really like about everything that I've seen from him when all of this Blake Lively stuff started coming out, where she's been saying that he was harassing her, where she was saying that like work conditions were not up to par, he has been saying nothing but good things about her. I think that's a sign of emotional maturity and a level of respect that clearly isn't being brought to the table from the other person. And I'm trying to say that very hyper aware of the accusations that Blake Lively put forth. I looked into her report into the claims that she made against Justin Baldoni, and I've been seeing some of the stuff that he's putting out in order to refute it. It seems like a much more complex situation, and what I think is actually going on is just a huge power struggle. And we are going to see that in all of these charts. We're going to see that there's this tendency to try to take lead on something and not being very courteous if that doesn't work out. So for Justin Baldoni, it specifically says that it's important for him to accept that along with all of the pleasure and enjoyment he can get out of life, there also has to be lessons of pain, lessons of suffering that will help him grow and evolve as a soul. We are going to get a little bit of a look-see into Justin Baldoni's mind, because it seems that he has a lot of underlying issues with anxiety and fears. That came up time and time again in his soul contract. It kept telling him how important it is not to get into your head, not to start spiraling into oblivion in regards to issues surrounding finances, in regards to issues surrounding working with people. So for his personality, some of his greatest strengths are that he's great at seeing difficulties as opportunities to grow, to develop character, to address the weaknesses that you have as a person. He is very capable of navigating complex situations. I think that is very on point considering how he handled all of the accusations thrown at him. I feel like he did it in a very respectful manner. But some weaknesses for him are fears and doubts, fear of loss. Specifically, there's a gigantic issue around the fear of loss of personal relationships, loss of finances. And lastly, anxiety, negative thoughts. He has this fixation that starts to happen when he starts having negative thoughts that can dominate his thinking and eventually start to manifest in real life. Now, his past life. When I saw his past life, I got a sense that we were seeing a better idea and a better picture of what it is that happened on the set of It Ends With Us. His past life is a life where he abused or tortured others in some shape or form. he had certain powers or control or authority over people, and he abused that power and ended up hurting people, and he got satisfaction from it. So the punishment in this life is that he doesn't have as strong of a body as he did in the previous life, or maybe not as strong of an influence that he did in a previous life, in order for that to not happen again, because there was this proclivity towards sadistic or malignant actions. I think that this is on point. I think that the reason that he is hyperfixated on his health, on his strength, on his fitness is because of this issue that he has a weaker body. His spirit remains the same. His ambitions and his drive and his willpower are very much similar to the ones that he had in a past life. So I feel like he was very ambitious in a past life to get to the point where he got to a place of power and then started abusing people. And now the lesson here is to not do the same when you get into a place of power. So I feel like he was predestined to get into an influential position in order to see if he's going to graduate this lesson, in order to see if he's going to be like, okay, this ends with me. I am not going to do the same thing that I did in a past life and bully other people, abuse other people, humiliate other people. And I'm going to start treating them like I would like to be treated. Now, interestingly enough, there's a section in the soul contracts called scenarios that may be playing out in your life. This is your approach to life. This is how you approach things that are that catch you off guard. And his is one of provoking and attracting conflicts. Not looking so good, I know. Here are some of the ways this can manifest. When you have an approach to life where you are provoking and attracting conflicts, you can expect drug or alcohol addiction, court scandals, blaming others for your misfortune, wasting your energy, loss of rights, privileges, weak body, sex addiction, lack of self-control, aggressive behavior, disrespect, bullying weaker people, threats or blackmail, being stuck in hopeless situations, engaging in illegal activities, and taking advantage of others or getting the same treatment in return, others taking advantage of them. The underlying issue here is his aggression. And I wonder if that was the underlying issue that he had with Blake Lively. Perhaps she did not take his aggression well, although it might have been microaggression. It might have been like blatant aggression. Blake Lively, as you'll see, is a person that is very intuitive and can pick up on things very easily. So he didn't even have to flat out be aggressive to her. I feel like if he just wanted to, like if there was the energy of aggression, she would be picking up on it. And perhaps this is where the conflict started. So it's very important for Justin Baldoni to be able to observe and manage his aggression by accepting the views of others and their different behavior. But that's a little look-see into the inner working of his mind and his life and the kind of situations that he tends to attract and why. I'm very curious to kind of be a fly on the wall of that movie set and see how this aggression manifested in his producing and his directing. So the next part of his chart is his destiny. And usually destiny is organized in ages, in groups of ages from 20 to 40, then 40 to 60, being that Justin Baldoni and Ryan Reynolds are over. I took a look at their 40 to 60 destiny. And Ryan Reynolds only had 2 numbers, and both of those numbers were in Justin Baldoni's destiny. And they feel very, very important. It feels like Ryan Reynolds and Justin Baldoni are very, very similar, hence the conflict that we see here that is playing out. When Candace Owens was talking about how the culprit behind this whole entire issue is Ryan Reynolds' jealousy and controlling behavior, seeing this makes it make sense. Because when you have two charts that are very, very similar to each other, you can kind of see how that energy intermingling may cause issues. So firstly, the number that pops up for Justin Baldoni's destiny, his mission, so to speak, for ages 40 to 60 is the number 13. And for the number 13, this is a transformative period. This is a period of kind of throwing out the old and ushering in new energy. The purpose of it is to reject everything that's old, obsolete, reject systems, values in place that are no longer serving him and no longer serving the collective. There's a need to travel, there's a need to realize your potential. And when one doesn't do that, life starts to take you from one extreme to the other. Now, the two numbers that he and Ryan Reynolds have in common in regards to their destiny for specifically this age group is 8 and 22. 8 is all about learning cause and effect. There's this issue about understanding that your actions can have various effects, both positive and negative. So they're specifically, both him and Ryan are specifically being called to be hyper aware of the things that they're putting out, hyper aware of the messages that they're putting out, and to take responsibility. It specifically says that they need to take responsibility and not put the blame for their failures on their upbringing or their parents or other external sources. And it literally says if he does not learn this, if he fails to learn this, he is going to end up in conflict, fighting for justice, and it can lead to very complicated legal proceedings. So this is both a warning for Justin and for Ryan Reynolds. The second number they both have in common is 22. 22 is in tarot, it is the world card. It is about freedom. It is about travel. It's about not being grounded, not being tied to one place, being able to express yourself, being able to be authentic, and just really having freedom in all aspects of your life. Justin Baldoni's general destiny, his general mission in life is to create things. And not create like ideas and things that are intangible, create tangible things, create things like houses, furniture, art, things that people can feel. So that is very interesting to me. I feel like choosing the career of an actor is a lot more artistic, a lot more creative, and not as material and hands-on as his destiny sounds. But I can see that creating movies and creating shows is still creating tangible things, and it is likely just his expression, the way that his soul chooses to express itself in this lifetime. As far as subconscious programs go, Justin Baldoni has a few red flags. We start off with the program, the High Spiritual Unification Mission, which is a good program to have. It doesn't have any negative connotations to it. It simply means that you were meant to unite people in some way towards a common goal, and you have this natural ability to persuade people to your cause and get them on board with your mission. Right after that, we go into a program that is centered around manipulation. Things that can manifest, like extremes that can manifest from this subconscious program, is a person trying to keep somebody in a relationship by impregnating them or getting pregnant from them. But it doesn't have to be so drastic. Sometimes it can be little manipulations, but this person is a very strong-willed person. When they're operating the positive, this person that is very ambitious, very clear and focused on what it is that he or she wants. And they have this tendency of going towards their goal no matter the cost. Like, they know how to push themselves. They know how to army crawl to the end goal, even if like they're halfway dead. So very ambitious, very focused, and it's very endearing. But when you take that kind of commitment and put that into the negative, this results in people manipulating others in order to get their way, because they start thinking, oh, the ends justify the means. Like, it doesn't matter that I've manipulated her into doing this and this, because ultimately this is going to serve us all very well. So a little bit of iffiness there with that, because this program specifically states that this person is capable of blackmail when they're operating in their negative. They may take credit for something that they didn't do, they didn't create. But in their positive, strong will, strong belief in oneself, and strong belief in their power. So it's like this person knows how to get things done. They will kill themselves, but they will get it done. Again, it can manifest in various extremes. I feel like a lot of people don't even realize that they are capable of manipulation, or that they manipulate on a daily basis, because a lot of manipulators are so used to doing that in order to get the outcome that they want, that they don't see themselves doing it. It's second nature, and they believe the reason why they need this to happen. They're like, okay, no, this has to happen because this and this, and everything else kind of flies out the window, and they start believing their own lies. So, not looking so good for Justin Baldoni. Again, in the positive, that program is very beautiful, but the reality is only Justin Baldoni or his loved ones know if he's operating from the positive space or the negative space. The next program he has is called Sacred Sacrifice. This is a very double-edged sword kind of program, because it means that this person is very empathetic. He's able to sacrifice himself and his needs for others. But oftentimes what ends up happening when they do is that then they resent the person for it. If they gave up something that meant a lot to them, and they're like, you know what, I'm not going to chase this dream because I believe in you and me, and we're going to do this together. And then they start resenting that person and getting irritated, even though the person never asked them to give this thing up. So they're kind of like sacrificing, but then playing a martyr. And it's like, well, which one is it? Did you really have to sacrifice this thing that you sacrificed for this person? Or did you do so for show, and now you're regretting it and going back on it, and it's created a very mucky situation? Followed by Sacred Sacrifice is Excitement Risks Adrenaline. I touched that a little bit. I don't see Justin Baldoni taking really extreme risks. So I'm not going to apply it to any specific example that I've seen thus far, but it's pretty self-explanatory. A person takes unnecessary risk and gets little to no reward. The next program he has is Academic Knowledge. So academic knowledge we see in the brightest minds in Hollywood. This is somebody that is charismatic, very intelligent, very witty, but also very narrow-minded and stubborn. Those are kind of the negative aspects of the academic knowledge. This is a person that is very focused, like they could be hyper-focused on science, they could be hyper-focused on, I only believe in what it is that I see, or what it is that I feel or can touch. This can prevent personal growth and soul growth, because the person doesn't listen to outside ideas, doesn't listen to like anything that's coming in that's new, because they're very set in what it is that they believe, and they don't make room for anything else. Now, the next program I kind of like, kind of don't like, but I feel like that's with every program, because there's positive and negatives from every program. Like, it gives you good qualities, like good talents, good gifts, but when it is abused, or when you aren't being aware of your state, it can turn south really fast. The Imaginary Freedom one is a very good one. Because in the positive, this is somebody that can be authentically themselves. They are sure in themselves. They believe in themselves, which we've seen all throughout his chart. He has this strong will, belief in his power, belief in himself, has his own style, is super confident. But the opposite side of that, the negative side of that, is a showy marriage. This is a person that's a little bit duplicitous. They may showcase their relationships as one thing, and then behind closed doors, they are more so roommates than spouses. Save time, I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to list two more that I feel kind of highlight what it is that he's bringing to the conflict, to this situation. And he has a parallel love program, which when I saw, I started believing that there was something going on romantically between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Either she started having feelings for him, and or both of them started having feelings for each other, or he started having feelings for her, and Ryan Reynolds picked up on that and decided to step in. And maybe that's where everything started kind of spiraling. But the parallel love program means that there are two interests in a person's life. They could be romantic interests. They could be a person having to choose between a job and potential love interest, or spouse, or a love interest. And sometimes the parallel love program ends in infidelity. So I would not be surprised at all if once this thing goes to court, if it's going to be televised like the whole Amber Heard and Johnny Depp thing was, I would not be surprised if there were things coming out like text messages between them that were a little too friendly. I don't know why I said that so weird. Friendly. So keep an eye out for that. Lastly, I want to mention that he has the program called Changing Others' Place. And it says that he has the propensity, or he has the potential, to stay in a relationship that doesn't make sense anymore out of fear of repeating parental mistakes. He may stay in a relationship that no longer serves him for the sake of the kids, or for the sake of whatever reason, for PR reasons perhaps. And this program also says that he might get involved in other people's relationships and judge them, and go as far as to take somebody's spouse, like take someone else's spouse and be like, oh, your husband is mistreating you, and ... And this one hits the nail on the hammer in this program, in the Changing Others' Place program. It literally says that inadequate recruitment can bring people into a team without assessing the business needs and strengths of new hires. So as soon as I read that, I'm like, wasn't Justin Baldoni the one that requested Blake Lively to be in the movie? I don't know, because it goes on to say this results in short-lived projects that may impress but ultimately fail, causing job losses and wasting other people's time. And I'll mention one more subconscious program. He has one more subconscious program called the Revenge Program, and it essentially means that this is a person that can hold grudges. This is a person that can plot how to get back at somebody who has wronged them. And that was Justin Baldoni's chart. And I did not expect for it to take so long to go over it, but I'm going to try to quickly go through Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's. This is not to mean that their contracts aren't as interesting or aren't as in-depth as Justin Baldoni's. This is just time management, poor time management on my part. Okay, Ryan Reynolds. His main numbers are 5 and 10. 10 is the lucky star number. This is a person that's very fortunate. This person was born lucky. There are certain opportunities available to him that are not available to others. He's kind of just fortunate in that way. 5 is all about a very, very Taurus energy, very much grounded into logic, rules, traditions. This person is somebody that respects societal standards and follows them. He's not prone to experimenting, and he likes to follow the well-trodden path. Now, it might not seem like he follows it religiously because he chose to be an actor, and that's not a very safe path like accountant, dentist, doctor, lawyer. But this leads a person to be very close-minded. He's very narrow-minded, gets trapped in the framework of his own beliefs. He imposes his beliefs on others, and he feels like his beliefs are the only beliefs that are right and everybody else is wrong. And he likes to hold on to what is sure, what is reliable, what is predictable, because I feel like there's some need for control with him. So, Ryan Reynolds is literally imbued with unique charisma and magnetic charm that enables him to effortlessly reach the highest levels of society and establish relationships with wealthy and powerful individuals. When on a positive trajectory, this person is capable of reaching the highest of heights in work, in their career, in their personal life. They can get it all. In a negative manifestation, we see this manifest as somebody that is a dreamer. They kind of live in their own world, in their own dreams, and not very much in reality. They make a lot of plans, they have a lot of goals, but they never act on them. His past life is very interesting because basically being a person of influence and fame is in his karmic lineage, because he used to be the heir of a very important and significant family. It was like old money wealth. It was several generations worth of wealth. And he was expected to kind of carry on that role, carry on the position and the legacy of the family. And he refused to do so. He kind of stepped out of it, became the black sheep, and kind of totally dissociated with it. And he became kind of an outcast to his family. How this manifests. Now, I forget where I heard something about this, but maybe it was Candace Owens' thing. She started talking about him having issues with his father. I don't know how it manifests into this specific conflict, but it is spot on because his present life karma is that of having issues with parental figures where you feel like you have to prove yourself, you have to prove your worth, you have to prove that you are lovable, and meet all of the expectations, achieve all of the achievements, and it's like this never-ending, exhausting running up a hill that kind of drains you. And the lesson there for him that he is meant to learn in this lifetime is that he is worthy of love. Not because of what he achieves. He's just worthy of love because he is who he is. He deserves love. Everybody is worthy of love. This karma ends up manifesting certain situations in his life. So the scenarios that play out in his life are the following. He has conflicts with family members. There's coldness or rejection by parents. There's a very strict upbringing, or he's just very neglected as a child. He's kind of left to his own devices. Like one of those two extremes ends up happening. The parents divorce, there's family secrets, lack of self-understanding, and he could have been an unwanted child, and he might have felt unwanted his whole entire life. So that's what Ryan Reynolds is working with. I feel like he felt very rejected and felt like he had something to prove to his parents very early on. And I wonder if that plays into his relationship with Blake Lively and his part in this issue. Along with having the same destiny numbers for the 40 to 60 years as Justin Baldoni, Ryan Reynolds also has the high spiritual unification mission. So this is somebody that can unite people towards a certain goal. He has the binge program. He has the subconscious binge program. which stems from not being appreciated or loved as a child. The binge program manifests as showy grand gestures. This is a person that is like, I want it all or nothing at all. Like, either give me everything or I don't care about it. He may try to buy somebody's love, buy somebody's approval. This is like the parent that goes all out for their kids' birthdays, may buy unnecessary things, but they compensate what they can't express in material ways. He also has the excitement, risks, adrenaline program, the prison program, and the revenge program. So the prison program might be a mental thing because I don't see Ryan Reynolds ever going to actual prison, but the prison program can manifest an actual prison sentence. I wouldn't be surprised if like there was a drunk driving incident or like he got pulled over and spent the night in jail somewhere because of this subconscious program. The revenge program, again, this is a person that keeps grudges and plots how to get somebody back for offending them or disrespecting them. He also has the Fairy World Director Writer Program. This is a person that is very, very brilliant. The most brilliant minds in Hollywood and in the world have this program. It means they're great writers, they're great communicators, they have an active imagination and are super creative. I love when that pops up. And obviously, Ryan Reynolds is a wonderful director and writer, so I'm not surprised that that's there at all. Blake Lively. I didn't expect to find admirable qualities in her chart. To be honest with you, I feel a certain way about her. But upon reading her chart, I understand why she rubs certain people the wrong way. She has a lot of masculine energy in her chart. The main numbers for her are 7 and 8. 7 is the energy of the conqueror, and 8 is one of very deep feelings and very deep aspirations. And those two kind of conflict with each other because on one hand, we have a person that is very logical. We have a person that is very driven and ambitious and strong-willed. And on the other hand, we have a person that is very emotional, very hypersensitive. And when I say hypersensitive, I don't want to say it in a bad connotation, just very sensitive to energy and sensitive to what's being put out by other people as well as her own emotions. So for the 7, we see verbiage like tough, demanding, authoritarian. They find it difficult to relax and let things go. Like picture your career woman, the boss lady, you know, the one that has to kind of shut off all of her feelings and she has to like get towards the goal, and she kind of doesn't have time to worry about people's feelings, doesn't have time to baby everyone and be like, oh, are you okay? Like, this is a person that's very driven, very logical. And then that immediately is met with a person that is very sensitive and very emotional. So she has this struggle in between these two very different, conflicting, opposing almost versions of herself, where she has to be this driven woman, and it's very difficult to be in masculine fields and access that masculine side of you when you have such a very strong and potent feminine energy on the other side of it. It feels like a recipe for disaster, honestly, and I feel like this is where the biggest issues with her come from, because I feel like a lot of people see the demanding side of her. A lot of people see the authoritarian side of her that tries to take control. But then there's this very vulnerable side that she likely doesn't show to anybody, because as a woman, as soon as you show your vulnerabilities, as soon as you show your emotions in professions that are very male dominated, it doesn't go so well. I feel like I don't have to explain that. So right off the bat, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. I'm kind of feeling for her because she has the recipe for success because of her drive and her strong will And she has this other side that she has to balance. And they feel like very polar opposite sides, the masculine and the feminine energy. And both are very, very deep and strong. So she struggles specifically with feelings versus logic. She's very logical and she tries to make sense of everything. So this kind of gives me a scenario where there's like a very suspicious thing going on in a relationship. Maybe the significant other is having somebody on the side, and she's very logical. So she's like, okay, it doesn't make sense. It takes you 7 minutes to get home. And she'll start getting into the details of it and be like, this doesn't make sense. But because there's that very strong feminine side, it's like, oh my gosh, but I want this to not be true. I want there not to be an affair. I want to not have to worry about that right now. So I don't know why that specific example was popping up when I was reading this, but that's what was coming to mind. So when this manifests negatively, she may struggle with self-doubt, lacking ability to build relationships, not being able to have constructive dialogue with others. So it might be very difficult for her to communicate what it is that she's trying to communicate without coming off very demanding, very harsh. And most people wouldn't expect that from a woman. And that is why I feel like she is damned if she does and damned if she doesn't. I think that's the saying. So here's where it gets interesting, because this is out of her soul contract verbatim. She may try to leverage her influence and charm to gain an advantage or social standing. That's interesting. It also says that her anxiety can get so bad, the stress can get so bad for her when she's trying to battle this logic versus feelings, that she may act impulsively and make critical mistakes, like maybe leaking something to the New York Times. Her approach to life is one of limitation. She has a strategy of limitation. So the things that can play out for her is that she attracts situations that limits her significantly, limits her freedom, limits her own control over her life. And signs that this is playing out is avoiding responsibility, breaching of commitments, being restricted by circumstances, self-restraint, imprisonment, sickness of loved ones, dependent relationships, fear of change and decision-making, addictions, being manipulated by other people, childish attitude, and infantilism. Infantilism? Infantilism? One of those. So she's manifesting things that limit her freedom, that limit her opportunities because of this kind of internal power struggle that's constantly going on for her. Some of the subconscious programs in her contract are the excitement, risks, adrenaline. I'm telling you guys, that one pops up a lot. This subconscious program pops up a lot, but one that I don't see a lot is the bragging program. So this is a person that likes to exaggerate. They like to tell stories. And I specifically wanted to mention this subconscious program because there was an interview that she did with Anna Kendrick one time, and she started saying this story, and it sounded so like she was explaining it like this huge thing happened. And Anna Kendrick immediately started calling her out on it and be like, that's not how it happened. She's like, I think she said something like, I didn't know that there was a gun, or you didn't know that there was a gun. Anyway, so that's spot on. And I think this entire issue with Justin Baldoni was predestined for her. This is like a very pivotal moment in her life right now, especially considering what a gigantic influence this is having on her reputation, on Justin Baldoni's reputation, on Ryan Reynolds' reputation. This is going downhill very fast. And I think it's all stemming from this subconscious program. It is called the bad/good company. This is when a boss comes in that might appear tyrannical, or they might just have a very dominant personality and they have to be obeyed, and a dictatorship might be formed. And so Blake Lively, being the person that's coming into this, provides an opportunity for change or rebellion, resulting in the overthrow of the leader. The purpose of this subconscious program is to not be quick to overthrow and overpower or like try to instill somebody else, to not jump the gun and be like, you know what, time to change bosses, let's do a mutiny and make a new captain. I think it was an opportunity for her to bring out the best in herself and an opportunity for Justin Baldoni to bring out the best in himself. The bottom line of this program is that good will prevail if you give it a chance to manifest. So I feel like if Blake Lively waited it out, it would have turned out okay. The program says it would have turned out okay. So perhaps it's because of both people being so strong-willed, so driven, that it came head to head and they clashed. They clashed so hard that it manifested all of this. And there are 3 other programs that Blake Lively has in her chart, subconscious programs, one of them being the harmony/label program, which essentially means that the person has a mark on their face or some kind of beauty mark that makes them very unique. And Blake Lively has her signature mole. She's known for that. I feel like I don't usually notice moles on people, but as soon as I read that, I'm like, oh yeah, she has the beauty mark on her face. So along with the conflicting masculine and feminine energies, she also has the immobilization program, which is a person that is very hesitant to change, very hesitant to doing things differently. They like to keep things the same. They are a creature of habit. It's very easy to buy gifts for them because they like the same things. They don't change. They're going to go to the same coffee shop. They're going to drink the same tea or the same drink or order the same food for years and years on end. This may make it very difficult for a person to grow because they're unaccepting of new ideas, new beliefs. They're very rigid. Lastly, the program I'm going to end Blake Lively's chart with is the best worst program. When I saw that in her chart, I knew that there was a side to her that we were not seeing. And this is why I feel like Ryan and Blake are probably blowing this out of proportion, because the best worst program is a person that is very influential. They have a wide circle of friends and powerful friends. This is a nod to her dragon reference or Game of Thrones reference, like to Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds. That was ridiculous. This is a person that demonstrates complete dedication to their work. Like, they method act, they get into the character that they're playing. And again, maybe Blake Lively got a little into her character, or maybe Justin Baldoni got a little into his character, or into her character. No, maybe they got into each other. And maybe Ryan Reynolds was sniffing out a potential affair and he decided to shut that down really quickly and separated them. Maybe that's why Blake Lively sent Justin Baldoni and his family during the premiere of the movie into the basement. I'm sorry. I think Ryan Reynolds has a lot of insecurities. I feel like that was the underlying theme of his chart. Like, he constantly needed to prove himself and showboat. And Blake Lively has a bit of that too. So maybe that is why they were sent to the basement and not allowed to mingle with the other cast members. But I digress. The best worst program. The negative isn't always visible. The negative is very, very unnoticeable and goes undeterred until you really get to know a person. And once you do, the negative is very, very substantial, very extreme. This is a person that goes to the worst case scenario for everything. She's likely very anxious, has a lot of anxiety, or like something, if there's a minor inconvenience, it's the end of the world. And this is a person that has a disdain for others. And there's kind of like this self-flagellation trait where a person might punish themselves by choosing a partner that is lower than them, like either socially or on some level, which maybe she felt Ryan Reynolds was lower than her somehow. I don't know. And then neglect themselves. Like this person will neglect themselves. So those are their soul contracts. I feel like Blake Lively, she sounds, and I'm not saying she is bipolar, but the conflicting energies in her chart sound very, very opposite. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's like this yin and yang that happens where she's on one day and off the next. Ryan Reynolds, and I'm working my way back here. Ryan Reynolds has some underlying issues with his parents that if he didn't work on, if he didn't heal, if he didn't do the inner child healing, which I actually think he makes fun of Justin Baldoni for doing, either in an audition that he like staged or something. Like he makes fun of Justin Baldoni's ayahuasca journey and Justin Baldoni's podcasts with the whole Deadpool, nice pool thing. I think there's a lot of insecurity underlying that. I feel like Ryan Reynolds was really scared to lose his wife and kind of stepped in and sabotaged this movie because I at this point, I don't think we're going to have a second one. Now, I know I kind of crapped on the movie in the beginning. It was a great movie. It was wonderful. It was extremely powerful, but it needed a trigger warning. I was not prepared for it. I feel like survivors of abuse would not be prepared for that. And it was definitely this like huge blindside, and it needed a trigger warning is all I'm saying. But it had a very profound message, very deep movie. I highly recommend it when you're in the headspace to do some healing, to do some inner child work, to do some generational healing and curse breaking. You have to be in the right mind space for that. So I really hope that they can reconcile their differences because they are not all that different. They feel very energetically the same, all of them. They're very strong-willed people that like things done a certain way and don't leave any room for new ideas or change. So I really hope that they can mend fences. Is that the saying? You guys are going to hear me butcher so many sayings. I don't know what it is about them sometimes. Like they just come out all scrambled up. So I hope they mend fences. And I would really like to see and it ends with us too. Although the one part I wonder who was directing the part where Blake Lively towards the end of the movie. And this is a spoiler alert. If you guys haven't seen the movie and don't want to know the ending, turn me off now. The end of the movie, there was a scene where Blake Lively gives the baby that she birthed to Justin Baldoni, and they're in character, and she starts saying that she wants a divorce or whatever. And she starts like saying like, you wouldn't want this for your daughter. And I'm like, oh my God, like that is so unrealistic. Out of all of the things that happened in that movie, I'm like, you don't give a baby to somebody that has physically hurt you, to somebody that is abusive. You don't give a baby to them and then say something that triggering. And I've read a lot of comments on threads on Instagram about how that was just a sure sign that that the people that directed this were not familiar with abusive relationships, abusive situations, because that is a recipe for disaster. So that's my take on it. I gave you guys their soul contracts. I tried to be as unbiased as possible. I did give a lot of my own opinions, but I told you guys all of the stuff that they had, all of the things that were applicable to this specific conflict, and make of it what you will. Please let me know in the comments what you think, or leave a review if you guys like digging into soul contracts of celebs like this, because this is a judgment-free zone. I want to state that we are not at all judging them. The motivation here is to have their soul contracts tell us what is going on. It's also to showcase that your soul contracts will divulge way more information than you are ready to. Like, they're so accurate. And all of these things that are popping up in their soul contracts, I'm like instantly putting together the pieces. So when I tell you guys that soul contracts are just scary accurate, this is what I mean. They are so scary accurate. And any part of your soul contract that you do not vibe with, it simply means that it hasn't happened yet. Either it happens later on in life and then like you'll connect the puzzles later, or you've already like cleared it earlier on. So that is my take, but not my take, because I'm trying not to take a take on the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds issue. Do with that what you will. I still think that there's no fault party here. And I also totally forgot that I wanted to mention what was in the numerology for their year when this movie came out, because that's another piece to this puzzle. So I posted this on my Instagram stories. So for the year that the movie came out, Justin Baldoni got a 22 in his chart, which is a very karmic number. It usually associates with traveling, importance of keeping yourself as free and ungrounded as possible, living in the moment, embracing life, and the natural propensity to ebb and flow. The positives of that year: new friendships, falling in love, passion. The negatives are rushed decisions and actions, wrong behavior that leads to the collapse of everything, recklessness, unjustified risk, loss of money or business by acting stupid. Word for word, guys, from his soul contract for the year that he made this movie. Possibility of making a mistake. I'm continuing. Possibility of making a mistake by making the wrong choice and affecting the course of his life dramatically. Health problems, like when he got into the hospital for a week or two. High risk of accidents, misunderstandings, inappropriate behavior, stupid actions, divorce, problems with friends, breakups. For Blake Lively's chart for the year that this was filming, she had a 6 as the main number. 6 brings in new friendships, lots of communication and connection, flirting, falling in love. I'm highlighting that specifically. Engagements, weddings. The negative is scandal, temptation, quarrels, conflicts, problems in relationships with others, misunderstandings, feelings of loneliness, lack of love, cheating, breakups, divorce. I will end the episode with that. It has been a lot of information to throw at you guys all at once, but that's what I got for you guys. And if you are interested in purchasing your own soul contract, which I highly recommend to do at least once in your life, because you will go back to it endlessly, guys. Every time I look up somebody's soul contract and I'm like, I can pinpoint basically to the day when that happened to them. I'm like, I need to reread my soul contract and like read every single word, because it is likely going to be predicting something. So if you guys wanted to purchase your own soul contract, go to my Etsy store or thesoulecosystem.com. Please like, subscribe, follow, review, rate me. Let me know your thoughts on this, because I want to know if you guys like this kind of stuff. I want to know who to look into next. Maybe there's another conflict that we need to kind of dive deep into and get the juicy tea on. All right, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for your time. Tune in every Friday on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple for more episodes. Love you guys so much and have a great weekend.